Captain Lee Taman stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force cruiser Soul's Pride, watching the stars through the main display. He had served 20 years in space, but something felt different today. The communication systems were picking up strange signals from the outer solar system. "Sir, we're getting reports from the Jupiter stations," said Lieutenant Park Jiwon from the communications desk. "They're seeing something big moving toward Earth." Taman walked over to look at the data. The readings showed massive objects, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, like a deadly dance across space. "How big are we talking about?" Taman asked. "Each ship is at least 5 kilometers long, sir. There are 12 of them." Taman felt his stomach drop. Earth's largest warships were barely 1 kilometer long. Whatever was coming toward them had technology far beyond human understanding. Dr. Park Yuna was in her laboratory on Mars when the first alien ships appeared on the scanners. She had spent her life studying life forms from across the solar system, but she had never expected to find intelligent aliens. Now they were here, and they did not look friendly. The alien ships were beautiful in a terrible way. They looked like they were grown rather than built, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to pulse with their own light. Yuna watched through the telescope as one of the smaller alien ships approached Earth's orbital defense stations. What happened next made her blood run cold. The defense stations opened fire with everything they had. Missiles, energy beams, and kinetic rounds all struck the alien ship. The weapons that could destroy asteroids and enemy ships barely scratched the alien vessel's surface. Then the alien ship responded. A single beam of purple light shot from the alien ship. The beam touched the defense station for less than a second. The entire station, with its 3,000 crew members, simply vanished. Not destroyed, not blown apart, just gone as if it had never existed. "Did you see that?" Yuna whispered to her assistant. "The defense station just disappeared," the young man replied, his voice shaking. Commander Kim Do-jin was at the Mars defense grid when the news reached him. Earth's most powerful weapons had failed completely. The aliens had destroyed 3 orbital stations without taking any damage themselves. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," said his communications officer. "It's coming from the lead alien ship. Put it on screen." The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge step backward. The alien was tall and thin, with pale skin that seemed to glow with inner light. Its eyes were completely black, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like music and thunder at the same time. "I am War Commander Thalon of the Valthros Empire," the alien said. "We have come to your small world to collect specimens for our archives. Your species shows some interesting primitive traits that may be worth preserving." Do-jin stepped forward. "This is Commander Kim Do-jin of the Earth Defense Force. What do you want?" The alien smiled, showing teeth that looked like polished metal. "We want nothing from you that we will not take. Your people will be collected and placed in our preservation facilities. Some of you will be studied. Others will provide entertainment. Your world will become another museum piece in our great collection. And if we refuse?" "Refuse?" The alien laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Small creature, we have conquered 1,000 worlds and collected 10,000 species. We are perfect beings. We do not age, we do not die, we do not make mistakes. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. What could you possibly do to refuse us?" The transmission ended. Do-jin looked around his bridge at the frightened faces of his crew. Earth had 3 months before the main alien fleet arrived. 3 months to prepare for war against beings who called themselves perfect. Back on Earth, Captain Taman was in an emergency meeting with Earth's military leaders. The room was full of generals, admirals, and scientists, all trying to understand what they were facing. "The aliens call themselves the Valthros," said General Chang-wook. "Our analysis of their first contact shows technology at least 1,000 years ahead of ours." "What about their numbers?" asked Admiral Song Hyeri. "Long-range scans show a fleet of over 200 ships heading toward Earth. They'll arrive in approximately 90 days. Dr. Park Yuna entered the room with a data pad in her hands. She looked tired and worried. "I've been studying the scan data from the first contact. I found something strange." Everyone turned to look at her. "What did you find?" asked Taman. "The aliens' biology is wrong somehow. They're too perfect. Every scan shows identical genetic patterns, identical cellular structure. It's like they're all copies of the same creature." "What does that mean?" asked Admiral Song. "I'm not sure yet, but in nature, perfection is usually a dead end. Perfect creatures can't adapt when things change. Admiral Song stood up. Whatever their weakness might be, we have 3 months to find it. Start evacuating the outer colonies, get our people to safety, and begin preparing every defense we have. As the meeting ended, Taman walked to a window overlooking the city. Millions of people went about their daily lives, not knowing that their world was about to change forever. In 3 months, aliens who thought they were perfect would try to turn humanity into museum pieces. But humans had survived ice ages, wars, plagues, and disasters that would have destroyed other species. They had spread across the solar system despite having primitive technology compared to other possible civilizations. Maybe being imperfect was not such a bad thing after all. Far away on the lead Velthros ship, Emperor Nethys the Eternal reviewed the data about Earth. He was ancient beyond human understanding, the last of the original Velthros before they had perfected themselves. He had overseen the collection of thousands of species. "These humans are interesting," he said to his commanders. "They continue fighting even when they know they cannot win. Most species surrender when they see our power." "Shall we destroy them quickly, my Emperor?" asked War Commander Thalen. "No," Nethys replied. "Let them prepare their defenses. Let them believe they have hope. It will make their eventual surrender more educational. Besides, it has been centuries since we faced a species that provided any real entertainment." The Emperor looked at the blue-green world ahead of them. Soon Earth would join the countless dead worlds in their wake. Soon humanity would become another extinct curiosity in the Velthros archives. He had no idea that he was about to face the one thing his perfect mind could never understand: the power of imperfection. The Velthros fleet arrived exactly 90 days later, just as they had promised. Captain Lee Taman watched from Luna Station as the alien ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They moved like a school of deadly fish, each one perfectly coordinated with the others. "All stations, this is Luna Command," Taman spoke into his communicator. "The enemy fleet has arrived. Remember your orders. Fight hard, but more importantly, learn everything you can about them." The first battle began at the edge of Earth's solar system. Human ships rushed to meet the alien fleet, their weapons charging and crews ready to die for their world. Admiral Song Harry commanded the defense from her flagship, knowing that this fight was hopeless but necessary. "Fire all weapons," she ordered. Hundreds of missiles and energy beams struck the Velthros ships. The alien vessels absorbed the attacks like they were raindrops hitting a mountain. Then they fired back. The alien weapons were like nothing humans had ever seen. Purple beams that could cut through the strongest armor like it was paper. Energy blasts that made entire ships simply stop existing. In the first 10 minutes of battle, Earth lost half of its fleet, but something strange happened during the fighting. Lieutenant Commander Nam Ji-hyun was piloting his fighter when he saw a Velthros warrior ship get hit by a lucky missile. The alien ship's hull cracked and silver liquid poured out into space. The wounded alien ship suddenly began flying differently. It moved slower, made mistakes, and even crashed into another Velthros vessel. Ji-hyun quickly sent a message to all human forces. "The aliens can be hurt," he broadcast. "When they bleed, they get confused." Captain Taman received the message at Luna Station just as the Velthros fleet reached the moon. He watched as dozens of alien ships surrounded his station. The enemy commander appeared on his screen again. "Human Captain," War Commander Thalen said, "your resistance is pointless. Surrender now and your death will be quick." "We don't surrender," Taman replied. "That's not what humans do." The alien looked puzzled. "Why do you continue fighting?" "You cannot win. We are perfect beings. We have never lost a battle in 10,000 years. Maybe that's your problem," Taman said. "You've never learned how to lose." The alien's expression changed to anger. "Destroy the station," he ordered his ships. Luna Station was heavily defended, but it could not stand against the entire Velthros fleet. Taman ordered his crew to keep fighting while he transmitted all their battle data back to Earth. As the station's shields failed and the hull began to crack, he sent one final message. "The aliens think the same way," he reported. "They all react identically to our tactics. If you can predict one, you can predict them all. Use this information." Luna Station exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Captain Lee Taman died with his ship, but his last message reached Earth and changed everything. Dr. Park Yuna was working in her hidden laboratory on Mars when she received Taman's final transmission. She had been studying samples of Vilthros technology and biology that human forces had managed to collect from the first battle. Under her microscope, she could see why the wounded alien ship had acted strangely. The Vilthros had no genetic diversity at all. Every single cell in their bodies was identical. They were not a species that had evolved naturally. They were artificial copies of some original design. They made themselves perfect, she whispered to her assistant, but they made themselves all exactly the same. Her assistant, a young scientist named Dr. Kang Minseo, looked confused. What does that mean? Think about it, Yuna explained. If they're all identical, they all have the same strengths. But they also all have the same weaknesses. If something can hurt one of them, it can hurt all of them. Meanwhile, Commander Kim Do-jin was organizing the evacuation of Mars colonies when the Vilthros fleet reached the Red Planet. He had read Taemin's message and begun to understand what they were facing. The aliens were perfect, but perfection meant they could not change or adapt. They thought in exactly the same way, made the same decisions, and had the same reactions to everything. Humans, with all their differences and flaws, were actually more flexible than their perfect enemies. Change our attack patterns, Do-jin ordered his remaining ships. Don't use standard military tactics. Do something unexpected. Do something wrong. His pilots looked at him like he was crazy, but they followed orders. Instead of attacking in formation, they scattered randomly. Instead of targeting the alien ship's weapons, they aimed at random points on their hulls. Instead of retreating when damaged, some ships charged forward while others ran away. The results were amazing. The Vilthros ships began making mistakes. They fired at empty space where they expected human ships to be. They turned the wrong direction to avoid attacks. Their perfect coordination broke down into confusion, but the victory was temporary. The aliens quickly adapted their tactics to counter human unpredictability. Mars fell within hours, and Do-jin barely escaped with a handful of ships. On Earth, Admiral Song Hyeri received the reports from Mars with mixed feelings. They had learned something important about their enemy, but they were still losing badly. The Vilthros fleet was now approaching Earth itself. She called an emergency meeting of Earth's remaining military leaders. The room was much smaller now. Many of their best officers had died defending Luna and Mars. We know their weakness now, she told the group. They can't handle unpredictable behavior, but we need a way to use that weakness on a larger scale. Dr. Park Yuna joined the meeting by video link from her hidden laboratory. I think I have an idea, she said. The aliens are all genetically identical. That means they might all be vulnerable to the same biological weapons. You want to create a disease? Asked General Chang-wook. Not just any disease, Yuna replied. A weapon that targets their identical DNA. Something that would be harmless to genetically diverse humans but deadly to identical aliens. Admiral Song nodded slowly. How long would it take? Months, maybe longer. And I would need samples of their biology. We'll get you samples, Song promised. Whatever it takes. As the meeting ended, reports came in that Vilthros troops were landing on Earth. The aliens moved through human cities like they owned them, capturing people for their collections and destroying anything that resisted. But in hidden bases around the world, humans began planning something the perfect Vilthros could never expect. They were going to use their greatest weakness, their differences, their flaws, their refusal to be perfect, as weapons against an enemy that thought perfection was strength. The real war was just beginning. 6 months had passed since the Vilthros conquered Earth. The planet looked very different now. Alien structures grew like silver tumors from the ground, and purple lights filled the sky where human cities once stood. Most of humanity lived in hidden underground bases, fighting a war they seemed destined to lose. Commander Kim Do-jin crawled through a maintenance tunnel beneath what used to be Seoul. His resistance cell had been planning this attack for weeks. Above them, a Vilthros supply depot stored weapons and equipment for the occupation forces. Remember, he whispered to his team through the radio, they expect us to attack from the logical direction. So we don't do that. His plan seemed crazy. Instead of hitting the depot's weak points, they would attack its strongest defenses. Instead of retreating when the alarm sounded, they would charge deeper into the facility. The Vilthros' perfect minds could not understand tactics that made no sense. The attack began at midnight. Do-jin's team burst through the floor in the middle of the depot, exactly where the aliens expected the heaviest security to stop them. The Valthros guards were so surprised that they hesitated for precious seconds. "Now," Dojin shouted. His fighters scattered in all directions, grabbing whatever weapons they could carry. When Valthros reinforcements arrived, the humans did the one thing the aliens never expected. They split up and ran in random directions instead of working together. The perfect alien coordination fell apart. They could not track multiple chaotic targets moving in illogical patterns. Half of the human team escaped with valuable alien technology. Dr. Park Yuna was deep underground in her secret laboratory, working with the alien samples that Dojin's raids had provided. What she found made her both excited and terrified. The Valthros' DNA was not just identical, it was artificially maintained that way. They had machines that constantly repaired any genetic changes, keeping every alien exactly the same as every other alien. It was the ultimate perfection, but it was also the ultimate weakness. "Dr. Kang," she called to her assistant, "look at this." Minxiao came over to examine her data. "What am I looking at?" "Their immune systems," Yuna explained. "They're perfect, but they're all identical. If I can create a virus that gets past one immune system, it will get past all of them." "Is that possible?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. "Yes, but it would kill them all. Every single Valthros in the galaxy. It would be genocide." The weight of what she was suggesting settled on both scientists. They were talking about wiping out an entire species, but that species was trying to wipe out humanity. Lieutenant Choi Minho was flying his modified fighter through the asteroid belt, running supplies to hidden human bases. His ship looked like a piece of junk, held together with spare parts and hope. That was exactly why it worked. Valthros sensors were designed to detect advanced technology and logical ship designs. Minho's ship was neither advanced nor logical. It was pure human improvisation, systems that should not work, but somehow did. "Supply run to Base 7 complete," he reported to Commander Dojin. "No alien contact." "Good work," Dojin replied. "How are the new engine modifications working?" Minho grinned. "They're completely insane. The power output changes randomly every few seconds. Any logical being would think the ship was broken and ignore it. That was the point. Human engineer Osuman had created what she called chaos engines, propulsion systems that worked on deliberately random principles. The engines were inefficient and unpredictable, but they made human ships nearly invisible to Valthros detection systems. Back on the occupied Earth, Admiral Song Hyeri was being held in a Valthros prison facility. She had been captured during the fall of the Mars defense grid, but the aliens kept her alive for questioning. They wanted to understand how humans thought. Her interrogator was a tall Valthros scientist named Research Prime Velthan. He seemed genuinely confused by human behavior. "Explain to me," Velthan said during one session, "why your people continue fighting when victory is impossible." "Because giving up is worse than dying," Song replied. "That makes no logical sense. Death is the end of existence. Surrender allows for continued existence, even as a specimen." Song looked at the alien with pity. "You really don't understand, do you? You're so perfect that you've forgotten what it means to be alive." Velthan tilted his head. "Elaborate. Life isn't about being perfect. It's about growing, changing, becoming something more than what you were. Your people stopped growing the day they made themselves perfect." The alien was silent for a long time. Then he asked, "What do you know about our history? I know you've destroyed thousands of worlds and killed billions of innocent beings. 10,467 species," Velthan said quietly. "I have studied them all. Each one fought us for a while, then surrendered when they realized they could not win. Except humans." Song leaned forward. "What makes us different? You are the first species that fights harder when defeat becomes certain. We have studied your military history. In your wars, humans often fight most fiercely when they are losing. This behavior defies all logic." "Maybe logic isn't everything," Song suggested. Through their conversation, Song learned something important. The Valthros were not just conquerors, they were collectors. They kept detailed records of every species they had destroyed, preserving them like museum pieces. They thought they were saving these civilizations by studying them even as they killed them. But there was something else. Velthan let slip that Emperor Nethys was ancient, possibly the last original Valthros from before their species had perfected itself. If that was true, he might be different from the others. Meanwhile, Dr. Park Yuna made a breakthrough in her weapon development. She had created a virus that could target the Velthros' genetic repair systems. Once infected, their bodies would stop maintaining genetic perfection. They would start to change, to become different from each other, and their identical biology could not handle that change. "It's ready," she told Commander Dojin over a secure channel, "but we need a way to spread it across their entire empire." How would we do that? Their homeworld has atmospheric processors that supply air to their colonies across the galaxy. If we could get the virus into those systems, Dojin understood immediately, it would spread to every Velthros world at once. Yes, but the mission would be suicide. Their homeworld is protected by thousands of ships. "Let me worry about that," Dojin said. "How long do we have?" "The Velthros are bringing in a special military commander to deal with human resistance. Someone called Warcast Prime Vorthak. Our sources say he's different from the others, designed specifically for warfare." Dojin felt a chill. If the aliens were creating specialized warriors to fight humans, the resistance was running out of time. They needed to strike soon, or humanity's brief advantage would disappear. As he planned the impossible mission to the Velthros homeworld, Dojin thought about what Admiral Song had said during her interrogation. Humans fought hardest when they were losing. Well, they were certainly losing now. Time to prove her right. Warcast Prime Vorthak arrived at the Jupiter system with a fleet unlike anything the Velthros had used before. His ships were darker, more angular, and moved with a deadly purpose that made even other Velthros nervous. He had been created specifically to understand and destroy human resistance. Commander Kim Dojin watched the new fleet through long-range scanners from his hidden base on Europa. This alien was different. While other Velthros moved with perfect coordination, Vorthak's ships moved with controlled chaos. He had learned to think like humans. "Sir, we're getting reports from our scouts near Jupiter," Lieutenant Park Sun-ho said. "The new alien commander destroyed 3 of our supply convoys without any warning. He didn't follow the usual Velthros attack patterns." Dojin studied the tactical reports. Vorthak had predicted where human ships would be and set traps for them. Worse, he had used illogical tactics to do it. The same kind of unpredictable strategies that humans had been using against the Velthros. "He's learned to fight like us," Dojin realized. "We can't use our old tactics anymore." The first major battle came at the Jupiter Station ruins. Dojin led a fleet of 30 ships against Vorthak's advance force. The human ships scattered randomly, using their chaos engines to avoid detection. It had worked against every other Velthros commander, but Vorthak was ready. His ships didn't try to track the chaotic human movements. Instead, they predicted where the humans would go when they thought they were being unpredictable. The alien commander had studied human psychology and learned that even chaos followed patterns. Within an hour, Dojin had lost half his fleet. He ordered the survivors to retreat, but Vorthak's ships were waiting along their escape routes. The alien had anticipated every move. "All ships, emergency scatter protocol," Dojin broadcast. "Don't follow any plan. Just run." Only 12 human ships escaped the Jupiter massacre. Commander Kim Dojin's ship was badly damaged, life support failing, but he was alive. More importantly, he now understood what they were facing. Dr. Park Yuna received the news of the defeat while working in her laboratory. The virus weapon was complete, but they still needed a way to deliver it to the Velthros homeworld. With Vorthak hunting down human resistance cells, time was running out. "We need to move fast," she told Dr. Kang Minseo. "This new alien commander will find us eventually." "Are you sure about using the weapon?" Minseo asked. "It will kill billions of them." Yuna looked at the vial containing the virus that could end the war. "They've killed thousands of species. If we don't stop them, they'll kill thousands more. Sometimes there are no good choices." But using the weapon meant someone had to fly it to the Velthros homeworld and deploy it in their atmospheric systems. It was a suicide mission through the most heavily defended system in the galaxy. Lieutenant Choi, Minho volunteered immediately when Dojin explained the mission. "I'll do it," he said simply. "You understand this is a one-way trip?" Dojin asked. Minho nodded. "My family died when Sol fell. My friends died at Luna Station. I don't have anything left except this war." Engineer Osuman worked for days modifying Minho's fighter for the mission. She installed the most advanced chaos engines she had ever built. Systems so random that they barely qualified as technology. The ship will be almost impossible to fly, she warned Minho. The controls will change every few minutes. The power will fluctuate randomly. You'll never know what the ship will do next. Perfect, Minho replied. If I don't know what I'm doing, the aliens can't predict it either. Meanwhile, Admiral Song Hyeri was still prisoner on a Velthros research facility. But her conversations with Research Prime Velthan had given her important information. She learned that Emperor Nethys was indeed the last original Velthros, kept alive by advanced technology while ruling over billions of identical clones. More importantly, she learned the location of the Velthros homeworld and the layout of their atmospheric processing stations. During one interrogation session, Velthan seemed troubled. Warcast Prime Vorthak has requested permission to destroy all remaining humans instead of capturing them for study. Getting tired of us? Song asked. He claims that humans are too dangerous to be kept alive. He says your species is a virus that spreads chaos wherever it goes. Song smiled grimly. Maybe he's right. Emperor Nethys has refused the request. He finds human behavior too fascinating to study from recordings alone. But Vorthak is persistent. That gave Song an idea. If she could escape and reach the human resistance, she could warn them that they were running out of time. Vorthak would eventually convince the Emperor to exterminate humanity entirely. Her chance came during a facility inspection. The Velthros had grown overconfident, believing that one human female could not possibly escape from their perfect prison. They were wrong. Song had been observing the facility's routines for months. She knew when the guards changed shifts, when the security systems ran diagnostic checks, when the corridors would be empty. When the moment came, she moved quickly and quietly through the facility. The hardest part was not getting out of her cell. It was acting unpredictably enough that the Velthros sensors couldn't track her. She crawled through ventilation systems, hid in storage areas, and moved in patterns that made no logical sense. To the perfect alien minds, she simply disappeared. 3 days later, Song reached a human outpost and contacted Commander Dojin with the intelligence she had gathered. The location of the Velthros homeworld, the layout of their atmospheric systems, and most importantly, the fact that humanity was running out of time. Vorthak is hunting down every human base, she reported. We have maybe weeks before he finds all of us. Dojin made the hardest decision of his life. We launch Operation Wildcard in 72 hours. Operation Wildcard was humanity's final gamble. While Minho flew the virus to the Velthros homeworld, the remaining human forces would launch attacks on 17 different alien worlds simultaneously. The attacks would not be meant to win. They were meant to create chaos and confusion, to draw Vorthak's attention away from Minho's mission. Every human fighter pilot, every soldier, every civilian with a weapon would participate. Most of them would die, but their sacrifice might save humanity. As the countdown began, Dr. Park Yuna sealed the virus weapon in a special container designed to release it into atmospheric systems. She handed it to Minho with shaking hands. This contains the end of the Velthros Empire, she said. Maybe the end of our war. Minho took the container carefully. What if it doesn't work? Then we're all dead anyway, Yuna replied. At least we'll die fighting. In 72 hours, humanity would either win the war or lose everything. There would be no second chances. Operation Wildcard began exactly as planned. Across 17 star systems, human fighters launched desperate attacks against Velthros installations. The attacks were not meant to win. They were meant to create chaos and draw attention away from Lieutenant Choi Minho's solo mission to the alien homeworld. Commander Kim, Dojin led the largest diversionary attack against a Velthros military base near Saturn. His remaining ships moved in completely random patterns, firing at targets that made no strategic sense. The alien defenders tried to respond logically, but there was no logic to defend against. Remember, Dojin broadcast to his pilots, we're not trying to destroy their base. We're trying to be so confusing that they can't think about anything else. The tactic worked. Velthros reinforcements rushed to Saturn, trying to understand what the humans were planning. Meanwhile, 3 star systems away, Minho's modified fighter slipped past the outer defenses of the Velthros homeworld. Minho's ship was barely holding together. The chaos engines made it shudder and spin unpredictably through space. Normal sensors could not track it because even Minho did not know where he was going from one moment to the next. This is insane, he muttered as his ship suddenly changed direction for no reason. But insanity was exactly what he needed. The Valthros homeworld was beautiful and terrible. The entire planet glowed with soft purple light, and massive organic structures grew from its surface like silver trees. Ships the size of cities orbited the world, but none of them paid attention to Minho's chaotic little fighter. Dr. Park Yuna monitored the operation from her hidden laboratory on Mars. She could track the diversionary attacks, but Minho's ship was invisible even to human sensors. She had no way of knowing if he had reached the target. The attacks are working, Dr. Kang Minseo reported. Valthros fleets are responding to all 17 diversions. They're splitting their forces to deal with the chaos, but Yuna knew the real battle was happening where no one could see it. On the Valthros homeworld, Minho had found one of the massive atmospheric processing stations. The structure was larger than any human city, pumping air and nutrients to Valthros colonies across the galaxy. If he could get the virus into this system, it would spread to every alien world within days. The problem was getting inside. The station was defended by energy shields and automated weapons. Minho's ship was too small and random to trigger most of the defenses, but he still needed to find a way in. Then he saw it, a maintenance port near the base of the structure. It was too small for a normal ship, but his fighter might just fit. There was only one way to find out. Minho aimed his ship at the port and let the chaos engines decide his fate. The ship spun wildly, scraped against the station's hull, and somehow squeezed through the opening with centimeters to spare. Inside the atmospheric processor, Minho found himself in a vast chamber filled with swirling gases and floating machinery. At the center was the main distribution hub where processed air was sent to thousands of worlds. He grabbed Dr. Park's virus container and his breathing mask. The chamber was filled with toxic Valthros atmosphere, but he only needed to survive long enough to deploy the weapon. Warcast Prime Vorthak realized something was wrong when his perfect tactical mind could not make sense of the human attacks. 17 simultaneous raids with no clear strategic purpose. It was either the work of madmen or a diversion. "Pull back our fleets," he ordered. "The real attack is happening somewhere else," but it was too late. By the time Vorthak's ships began searching for the real target, Minho had already reached the atmospheric processor. Minho attached the virus container to the main distribution hub and activated the release mechanism. The weapon was invisible and odorless, but he knew it was spreading through the system. Within hours, it would reach every Valthros world. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The aliens had finally detected his presence. Energy beams cut through the air around him as automated defenses activated. Minho did not try to escape. His ship was too damaged and he had completed his mission. Instead, he sat down next to the distribution hub and watched as the virus spread through the atmospheric system. "This is for Sol," he whispered. "This is for Luna Station. This is for everyone." The virus worked faster than Dr. Park had expected. On the homeworld, the first Valthros began collapsing within hours. Their perfect immune systems, identical across their entire species, could not fight a weapon designed specifically for their biology. Emperor Nethys the Eternal felt the virus affecting him in his throne room. For the first time in thousands of years, he experienced weakness. His perfect body was failing and his immortal mind was becoming confused. "Impossible," he gasped. "We are perfect. We cannot be destroyed by inferior beings." But perfection was exactly the problem. The Valthros had made themselves so identical that one weapon could kill them all. Their greatest strength had become their fatal weakness. Research Prime Velthan was in his laboratory when the virus reached him. As his body began to fail, he understood what the humans had done. They had used the Valthros' own perfection against them. "Fascinating," he said with his last breath. "They turned our greatest achievement into our destruction." Across the galaxy, the Valthros' empire began to collapse. On 1,000 worlds, the perfect beings who had ruled for 10,000 years simply died. Their ships crashed, their cities went dark, and their weapons fell silent. Admiral Song Hyeri was leading the attack on the Saturn base when the alien defenders suddenly stopped fighting. Valthros warriors collapsed at their posts, their perfect coordination breaking down into chaos and death. "What's happening?" asked one of her pilots. Song watched as an entire alien fleet simply drifted powerless through space. "I think we won," she said, hardly believing it herself. Commander Kim Dojin received the same reports from all 17 attack sites. The Valthros were dying everywhere all at once. Minho had succeeded. On Earth, the occupation forces collapsed within days. The silver structures that had grown from human cities began to crumble. The purple lights in the sky went out. Humans emerged from their hidden shelters to reclaim their world. Dr. Park Yuna stood in the ruins of Seoul, watching the last Vielthros ship crash into the Han River. She should have felt victorious, but instead she felt empty. They had saved humanity by committing genocide against an entire species. Was it worth it? Dr. Kang Minseo asked her. Yuna thought about all the species the Vielthros had destroyed, all the worlds they had turned into museums. I don't know, she said honestly, but it was necessary. Years later, when human children learned about the war in school, their teachers told them about the Vielthros Empire. The aliens had conquered 1,000 worlds and destroyed 10,000 species. They had called themselves perfect and ultimate, but they had never learned the most important truth about life. Perfection is the end of growth, and without growth there is only death. The Vielthros were considered ultimate until humans killed them all. Now they were just another lesson about the danger of believing you cannot be defeated. Humanity had learned a different lesson. They learned that their flaws, their differences, and their refusal to be perfect were not weaknesses. They were their greatest strengths. The galaxy was quiet now, but it would not remain empty. Other species that had been enslaved by the Vielthros were rebuilding their civilizations. Humanity would meet them as equals, not conquerors, and when they did, they would remember that diversity is strength, chaos can defeat order, and sometimes the best way to be strong is to embrace being imperfect.